Welcome, everyone. I'm Vivian, a doula lactation consultant, and I'm the host of the podcast Life Stories Unscripted, where I talk about everything from preconception, pregnancy to birth, and postpartum, and the ups and downs that go with it. If you're a parent or you're trying to have a baby and you're looking for real life stories, support, encouragement, empowerment, this is the podcast for you. Today, our guest is Julianne Marsh from Idaho, who has an extraordinary story to tell us, which is both captivating and heartbreaking. So let me welcome Julianne. Hi.
Hi, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm good. Thank you. Thank you for inviting me to be on here.
Yes, thank you for taking the time and willing to share your unique experience and life story and spread the support and awareness. Thank you.
Of course. I mean, everything I've went through, if there's even one person out there that I could help, then in a sense, I feel like it's worth it. Everything I went through, because it hasn't been easy. And, thankfully I've had love and support. So, hopefully I can be supportive for someone out there.
Absolutely. And I'm excited to hear everything about it. And yeah, so tell us something about you. Who is Julianne?
Oh, that's complicated. Well, I grew up in California. I lived there my whole life until I moved here in Boise, Idaho. I met my husband and he lived here. So I decided to move here. I absolutely love it. Honestly, I couldn't have asked for a better husband in my life right now. I feel like the things that I've gone through in life has led me to him, and I am so deeply grateful for him. Being in California, there's a couple, what's the word? Not so special things that I had to go through. January 21st of 2016. I was driving to meet a friend for coffee at 9:30 in the morning. And unfortunately, the gal rear-ended me at a red light at 90 miles an hour. When she hit me, I went into the intersection, 3 more cars hit me. And thankfully, I don't remember any of this, so I can get back in the car again. But when they found me, even the CHP, the firemen, they didn't think that I was going to survive. I had shallow breathing. My headrest came off. My Ugg boots came off. My legs were on the passenger side. And the only mark I had was above my left eyebrow, which probably is because my head hit the steering wheel, I'm guessing. I'm not sure. But when I got to the hospital, I was intubated and on a ventilator in ICU. And that's where my poor mom had to find me. I was 30 years old. And honestly, to this day, it makes me want to cry thinking about what my mom went through. And I know she was just kind of like the mama bear. Julianne's going to survive. She's got this. And, ironically, the gal that hit me was roomed, I guess, right next to me in ICU, emergency and all that. The gal was off her bipolar meds, and that's why she hit me. Thankfully, she wasn't hurt too bad. Her 5-year-old son had facial and skull fractures, but it was a tough road. I had a subdural hematoma. I had a midline shift in my brain. I had a brainstem bleed, so I had double vision for 13 months. I didn't drive for 16 months. And I also had a traumatic brain injury. Through then, it was very tough. Like the next year, I would have to wear an eye patch. My eye would hurt so bad. I remember constantly going up to my mom and crying, being like, Mom, if I survived this, why am I this miserable? And my mom looked at me and she goes, Julianne, you are here for a reason. She goes, and I don't want you to say that again. She goes, you're a survivor. You've had guardian angels and you've got this. And so, it took some time. I had to go through, lots of therapy. I was on disability. It honestly, that day, it changed my life. And one thing is I was like, oh, this was so bad. I don't think anything now. I've got everything else in my life. I'm good. This is like my one big struggle. I'm good. But unfortunately, November of 2017, I moved to Paradise, California. And at that time, it was gorgeous. I loved it. It was paradise to me. It lived up to his name, literally. It was gorgeous. Small town, everyone said hi to you, way different than growing up in Sacramento. And
did it
was great.
Feel like a resurrection from what you've been through? That
it did.
Like a fresh start?
It did. I'm like, okay, I'm nowhere near now Sacramento and traffic and the crazy drivers. It was just great. It was a small town feel. Like you would go to the grocery store and someone would say hi to you. And at first I was like, why did they say hi to me? Because I wasn't used to that. And I loved it. And it was great. I got a great job there. I worked at a skilled nursing facility. I was doing HR payroll. I loved it. I worked 4 days a week. Of course, in that time, I still had to go to the chiropractor, massage. I did acupuncture. I had to do some injections just to kind of help my pain. And then at the end of the day, November 7th happened. And that was the day where they said, hey, there's going to be high winds tomorrow. We're going to be shutting off power from 4 a.m. to 4 p.m. So when I woke up that morning, the power was on. And I'm like, it's 6:30. And since I worked at a skilled nursing, of course, we have to prepare for any power outages because of the elderly depend on oxygen and things like that. So it was like 6:30 and I was like, okay, I'll take a shower, get ready. And then all of a sudden we looked out the front and you could see that there was a fire somewhere. And so I went to the store real quick and I walked in and it was really odd. There was 4 employees standing in front, like of the door. And I'm like, are you guys open? And they're like, only for a second. You literally have to run in, get what you need and go. Paradise is under evacuation. And I was like, but the fire was way out like Polga area. And they're like, it's coming here. Our advice to you is go home, get a duffel bag packed and go. So at that time, I was like, oh my goodness, I remember calling my dad because I was driving and it was literally raining ash. And that was terrifying. Like I grew up in Sacramento, so we didn't have any of those fires. Like we had, of course, Tahoe down south, things like that, but I never had been in such a scary situation. So
especially
I went home.
when someone tells you go home, grab your duffel bag and just leave, like just take your essentials and run.
Yeah. And a total stranger nonetheless.
Right.
And so, I mean, and then at that time, my best friend there called me and she goes, hey, John said you guys need to get out now. And her fiance was the fire captain. So I'm like, oh my goodness, if the fire captain now is telling we need to go, I guess we need to go. So literally I got home. I saw my boyfriend at the time and his kids, and we packed up. I literally had a duffel bag of maybe like 2 pairs of yoga pants. I did bring my couple of my dad's shirts. My biological dad passed away in 2009. So thankfully I was able to grab those 2 because those are irreplaceable items in my opinion. I was able to grab my baby book and photo album, and I literally packed up like a makeup bag, and that was it. And I remember driving down Skyway and it was pitch black and it was 10 o'clock in the morning. And I was so nervous to turn the corner because I didn't know what was going to be around the corner because there were spot fires flying everywhere in paradise from the ash flying. So we ended up driving, and then we hit this black spot, and his kids were crying. And I'm like, you know what, guys? All we can do right now is say a prayer that we get out okay. And I was about ready to call my mom and tell her goodbye. Yet again, like I just went through the car accident in January of 2016. Right. And then here I am, November 8th of 2018, going, should I call my mom? Should I panic her? I didn't know. And so I just said a prayer. I closed my eyes. He drove through a thick black smoke. I opened up, and I literally saw about a quarter size blue sky that just began to get bigger. And I finally knew I was going to be okay. And that was amazing. I called my mom. She was crying hysterically. And when we got to safety in Chico, my friend Lisa there, she called me, and it was really tough because she goes, I'm in my car. I'm driving over telephone poles, and I don't know if I'm going to make it out. And I said, Lisa, you're going to make it out. You're going to be fine. You're going to make it to Chico, and we're going to see each other and be great. And she goes, I don't think so. And then all of a sudden the phone went dead. And my stomach dropped, because here I felt guilty. I was in Chico, safe, out of the fire. But I felt so bad for the people that were still there that never escaped. And finally, she ended up calling me later on, and she goes, I'm sorry, the phones, whatnot. Then my phone went dead. I survived. And I was like, thank you, God. Like it, I don't know, like there's no words to really explain how that was. And the whole experience, like I remember we even drove to Sac that day, and I called my mom. I'm like, Mom, I'm in Sacramento. I'm safe. She was still crying. Even when we went to her house, she still was holding me crying, because she just, I mean, I guess she almost lost me in 2016. Here it is a couple of years later, and I'm going through something terrifying. Like that Paradise Fire is exactly how the documentaries were. It was exactly like it. I mean, I hear the stories of the people that had to leave their car on the side of the road and just run. And there was a point that we almost did that, because seeing trees and telephone poles going up, it was insane. And at that point I was like, you know what, Julianne, you probably shouldn't have said you got everything now after your car accident, because, you know, it was a different kind of scare. Obviously with my car accident, I don't remember.
Right.
This
yeah.
is terrifying, because guess what? I do remember. But you know,
the place being called Paradise, you know, after this horrific event happened to you that, you know, fortunately you don't really remember, but you know, the pain is reminding you every day of it. And then you move to a paradise, a new chapter. It's literally paradise. And then you just have to pack your bags like during a wartime and just run for your life, because there is no one, right? It's you or no one. It's just, I can't imagine.
Yeah. And for me, I'm like, oh my gosh, Julianne, why didn't you grab this? Why didn't you grab that? But like when you're in there, I literally was back and forth from like the master closet to the bathroom to the other part of my bedroom where I'm at. Sorry, I have to let my dog out.
No
he's outside. And it just was insane, because I'm like, oh my goodness, what do I bring? What will I need? And you know, I just like, honestly, some of the stuff I got, I'm like, why did I bring this? Like, this is my least favorite sweatshirt. Like, why did I grab that? But I was in, I guess, such a panic that I really wasn't thinking. thankfully I grabbed my dad's couple shirts. But it was a lot. But every experience, those two that I went through kind of built me to the person that I am. I am very strong. I can be stubborn. I don't,
I said absolutely. And I can't imagine you or, myself or anyone in that position where, again, someone tells you to leave and you just have to grab just your essentials. What do I pack? And, especially what's happening in the world right now. I'm located in Czech Republic. So, Ukraine is just couple, states away. And it's very visceral experience to think about it, because I do think about it on a daily basis, right? Like, what if it would be me, or what if I would be there, or what if the war would be happening here? What would I pack? There are people who just lie on their apartment floors, barricaded their apartments for 16 hours because they just hear gunfire and missiles, and they don't know, is the next shot going to be for me? Is the next shot going to kill me? And I'm thinking I should maybe pack a duffel bag, but then I'm like, oh my gosh, like, what do I pack? And I admire you for just knowing, like, it's this weird brain response, this shutdown emergency mode where you just know what you pack. Like, you packed your dad's shirt that you knew deep inside you was so important for you that you're not leaving without it. I mean, it's the shirt, or it's me against the world, but I'm not leaving without the shirts. And it's just, I've never been in that situation. So it's, thank you for sharing this, because I think it helps a lot of people to relate, especially in these days. We are in a wartime pretty much, and the world is a little bit upside down. And yeah, I mean, it's just, so is there something that you regret that you did not take with you, or thinking back?
It's just one of those things, like, I wish I could have taken some of like the stuff my parents had given me. But I mean, in a sense, like, we were in my Honda Accord with 2 adults, 2 kids, and 2 German Shepherds. So really, what could I have possibly been able to take more of? Like, I remember there was a wine rack that my parents had that they gave me, and I cherished it. And, it's hard because my situation was a little different. My ex's house survived, but the problem with that was he left some windows open. So the smoke was so thick and toxic that I had to itemize all of my belongings and then pay and take it to the dump. So I literally had all my possessions still.
That's amazing.
They were so smoke damaged. Like, they said, there could be, who knows, carcinogens. Like, you don't know what the house next door to you had.
Right.
Like,
I mean, it's great that it survived, but they're pretty much unusable, right?
It was. And so it was heartbreaking. And as silly as it sounds, there was like this 2-foot snowman statue, like kind of like a stuffed animal, but it was hard, from Costco. And I remember my nephew and my dad, I have a picture of them right with it when my nephew was 2. And I'm like, oh, throwing that to the dump was heartbreaking. Because to me, it's like I lost my dad when I was 24. So to me, it's like that was still a piece of my childhood house that I had. But then at the end of the day, I had to realize, you know what? All this stuff that I just took to the dump, it's materialistic things. They can be replaced. Well, most of them. And, my life, it can't.
Absolutely. It's funny how people create these connections and bonds with things. And I know I have myself this problem, and that's why I panic a lot of the times. But yes, you're absolutely right. Life cannot be replaced. You cannot buy it. You cannot find it in a store. You cannot find another Julianne somewhere. So it changes you.
It really does. And even going back to my car accident, I didn't want to ask for help. Like if you can imagine when you were 30 and you have to call friends now or rely on your mom to take you somewhere, that's tough to swallow. I was like, oh, I don't like asking for help. I like to just do it myself. And that's probably my stubbornness coming out. But, that car accident taught me, you know what, Julianne? Things happen. You got to roll with it. If you need to ask for help, there's nothing wrong with it.
Right.
And that was a big lesson learned with that car accident. It's one of those things. I had so much, I think, anger and hurt of what that gal did to me. I decided one night I was at my parents' and I was like, you know what? I'm going to message her, because for me, I needed to get it off my chest.
Did you have a phone number or
Facebook?
Facebook. Oh, you found her.
I did. I found her on Messenger, and I sent her a message, and I was like, I'm not sure if you remember, because it would have been a couple years. I'm not sure if you remember me, but I'm the gal that you hit. And honestly, I really hope and pray you've gotten the help that you need and that you're doing well now. And at that point, I was like, you know what, Julianne, you spoke what your heart wanted you to say. And at this point, if she responds, great. And if she doesn't, you know what? You've said your piece.
Right.
So she did respond. It wasn't the response that I probably would have hoped for. But at that point, I can't predict what someone else is going to reply with. And I guess I probably should have thought that through a little bit more thinking back. But, for me, she doesn't blame herself with it all. And, that's okay. She said, I'll never understand what she was going through that day. And you know what? She's absolutely correct. I don't understand, thankfully, what bipolar is and being off my meds. I don't understand that manic state. But on the flip side, she doesn't know what I've went through for the last 6 years and the amount of pain I still go through on a daily basis. The amount of money I've had to pay out of pocket because I got $15,000 from her. And granted, I am grateful because I'm alive. I'm walking. I have an amazing job now. But the money that I've spent is incredible. But I'm here. So that's one of the things, and it's hard. I still pray that she's doing well. In that conversation, she goes, just so you know, my son and I were hurt. And my thing was, okay, I understand that and I feel sorry, but you're the one that didn't have your 5-year-old seatbelted in your car.
Right.
I was abiding the law and stopping at a red light. So, and I know it's probably a mental illness and I can relate to that. But, it was just hard, I guess, still to hear that she really took no accountability for what she did. It was kind of more brushed on me that I wouldn't get it. But, I hope in time that she finds peace. And I pray that her son's okay now. Because I still struggle. Thankfully, I have an amazing husband. We have quite an amazing story. We ended up, he friend requested me on Facebook, and July of 2020. And of course, I'm like, really, another guy Facebook friend requesting me? And so I was like, okay, we do have some mutual friends. And then I was like, oh, wait, what if I knew him? Because there was a couple year period that I didn't really remember things before my car accident. So I was like, maybe we met somewhere since we know people together. I don't know. So I'm like, you know what, Julianne, just reach out. So I was like, hey, have we met before? I'm really sorry. I had a traumatic brain injury. And there's like a period of my life that I don't remember. And he goes, no, we have mutual friends. I'm just networking my business. And he's like, I am so sorry to hear that. He goes, I hope you're doing better. And I was like, yes and no. And so honestly, we just started talking. We hit it off. And this was July 12th of 2020.
Mhm.
And I guess for me, everything that I went through, I was like, this is too good to be true. There's no way a guy that I'm not even looking for just friend requests me on Facebook.
Like
And
everything that's happened, and it's hard. I mean, and you even reaching out to the person who did that to you, and you finding closure, you finding the peace, you forgiving her, and you praying and hoping that she is doing really well, and just hoping for the best in her life. And at the end of the day, we can choose how we want to feel and how we want to approach things, and we can control that. We can't control others decisions or response, and it's okay. But I understand that this was totally just out of the blue, and this is something that you didn't control, right? All of a sudden, and it's good, it's positive.
I thought that, and I'm like, okay, wait, something's got to be wrong with him. It's just one of those things.
Right.
He was here in Boise, Idaho, and I was in El Dorado Hills at the time, California, and he ended up having to come up here for work. And I was like, oh, awesome. And so he goes, yeah, I'm flying up there on the 23rd. And I was like, well, I definitely would love to meet you. Like, I can pick you up. Maybe we can go out to dinner or something. And he goes, oh, that would be great. So at that point, that whole day, I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to wear? What am I going to do this? And I'm like, you know what, Julianne, he likes you for you. If you can like anyone within a couple weeks, Zooming, FaceTiming, I'm like, you know what? He's either going to like me for me or he won't. And I will tell you, it shocked me, but it was the best thing that's probably ever happened in my life. He got off the plane and walked through the doors. It was first sight.
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
And I'm like, okay, this does not happen. Like maybe in movies or something, but it doesn't happen in real life, especially not my life, considering what I went through. And he ended up meeting my parents. And my mom goes, Julianne, he's a good one. Do not let that one go. And I thought about it for a second. I was like, I've known him for like 2 weeks. But then I looked and going, okay, my mom has met 2 amazing guys in her life. My biological dad, they were still married when he passed. And my dad now that she's been married to is phenomenal. And I was like, you know what? If I'm going to take advice from anyone, guess what? It's going to be my mom. She has been my rock. And you know what? I'm going to listen to her. If my friends think I'm nuts, go for it. Think I'm nuts. But if I have my mom's blessing and she tells me that Patrick is the one, guess what? I'm going to listen. And I'm so thankful I did. And we ended up getting married a month and a day later after we first met.
What, a month?
Yep.
Wow.
And at that time, we only knew each other like a month and a half. So both of our sides of our friends were like, what are you doing? But it was great. I ended up moving here. I love it.
And given everything that you've been through, your friends can't really compare that to their lives, or it's been fairly non-traumatic, right? And it's just you either go for it or you just don't. And I love it. I mean, you went for it, and look at you. I mean, now you're living in Boise, and it's
it's amazing, but and at the time he didn't have any kids. I don't have kids either. He had a black lab German Shepherd colt. And so of course he's my baby now. I love him. But we decided to, see, it was December 2020, to start trying to have a baby. And I remember I went off the pill. It's like Christmas week. And then in March, I found out I was pregnant. So it happened quite quick. We went had the ultrasound, and I had twins. And I was like, oh my goodness. I'm like, my mom has been joking. Oh, twins run under a line of the family. I was like, Mom, that's not funny. I'm not going to have twins, even though my cousin has twins. I was like, that's not going to happen. Right. And sure, I had twins. I was like, okay, awesome. 2 at once. And we were literally on cloud 9. My husband was so happy that he was going to become a dad. I was happy. Like, I have nephews who I love. But it's different than having your own.
Absolutely.
So, we were moving along, and it was about, I think, 9 weeks. So still early. But I remember one night, I was in the bathroom, and I was like, something doesn't feel right. And as a woman,
right,
what feels right and what doesn't. So I passed something that looked a lot like tissue, and I lost it. I had a feeling that I had just had a miscarriage. And I remember kind of freaking out at my husband that night, because he goes, babe, you don't know. And I'm like, yeah, I do know. I know what comes out of me and what doesn't. And this is 100% foreign. And I remember going out on the sofa and curling up in a ball, bawling my eyes out, because I knew I had miscarried. And all that hype and excitement, even though it was only 9 weeks, it was rough.
And it's there. You have the connection, you feel it. I mean, it's irreplaceable, right?
Yeah. I mean, I was having morning sickness, but actually all day sickness, you name it. And it was tough. My husband didn't really know what to react. And honestly, I didn't know how to react myself. I was so up and down. Some days I was good. Some days I wasn't. In fact, at the same sense, some hour I'm good. The next minute I'm a crying mess. And it was hard for me, because I felt literally like I was losing my mind. Like, I didn't know what was happening in my body or anything. I had never experienced it. And it was hard. He actually, on Mother's Day of last year, he ended up going to SAP to see his mom, which is great. But at the same time, him and I weren't doing the best. And for me, it was hard, because that would have been like my kind of first Mother's Day, even though I was pregnant. Like, I was looking forward to it.
You're still a mama, so
yeah, you're so sweet. But it was hard, and I stayed with my parents, thankfully. But at that point, I wasn't sure what was going to happen with Patrick and I, because I mean, think about it. We started talking July of 2020. We met in person the end of July, got married the next month. And here we are in April, and we just miscarried. And I feel like I'm acting like a lunatic in a sense. Like, he doesn't know when he's going to come home to the nice Julianne, a semi-nice Julianne, or a Julianne that's going to be crying. And he told me that. He goes, I never knew what kind of wife I was going to come home to. And that was tough for me. Because I didn't really even know how to react when he said that to me. Because I'm like, I'm fine. And I'm thinking, okay, nope, just kidding. Not fine at all. And it was tough. But I will say, those couple nights away, even though it was really difficult because I had just lost, it did us good because he got to have some peace for a couple nights. I did. And, you know, we were able to talk when he got back. And I told him, I'm like, I'm sorry. My emotions are going to be up and down. Could be every other second, every other minute, every other hour. Who knows? But I just want to let you know it's going to be a constant up and down. And I said, I'm really sorry, but I don't know how to do it. Anything else. Like I'm a mess. So we ended up going in, and my doctor said, you know, there's a few ways we can do it. You can try and just, you know, do it naturally. There's some pills too that we can give you to kind of like induce everything coming out, or a DNC. And I was like, I don't want a surgery. And I'm like, you know, for me, and this isn't a personal choice for everyone, but for me, I thought, I don't know if I want to wait a month or two, like knowing that there's parts of the baby still in me.
Right.
I figured for my well-being, I was like, I can't do that. Like, honestly, I wanted everything to just go natural, but I had to think about myself, my marriage, my husband, people around me. But more importantly, for me. And I was like, you know what? I'm not going to be able to do it.
At the end of the day, it's your body, it's your mind, and it reaches beyond what is good or what is bad. It's not about that anymore at that point. It's you know, it's, I can't even explain it, but it's beyond good and bad at that point. And you need to be okay too with, and you need to feel comfortable in your own body. And even though it's hard, and it's, I mean, it must be even harder. I mean, every miscarriage is just traumatic and tragic, but trying for a baby for the first time, and you know, knowing that it's going to be two and not just one.
Yeah.
And saying goodbye just this fast. I just thank you for sharing this, for your strength, because I know it's not easy, and you know, just reliving that and thinking about it.
But I will say, like, even though it was tough, and for me, I decided to do the pills. And I thought, because I'm tough when it comes to my pain tolerance due to my car accident, boy, was I wrong. Later, I found out my OB says, oh, yeah, it's actually like you're having a baby. And I was like, and I didn't get any pain meds. Why? The cramps were so intense. And long story short, I still had some in there. So I had to go in for a DNC anyway. But I realized that at that time, I was going to start work at a reception office, counseling office. And I told them when I found out I miscarried, I'm like, you know what? I'm so sorry. I can't start next week, because I knew I'd be a mess. And honestly, looking back through it now, that was a tough, tough time. It took me a lot of time counseling, books, talking about it. Friends, thankfully. There's one friend that I met on Facebook, and she had a miscarriage as well. And honestly, I'll be forever grateful for Stephanie, because anytime I felt down, I could call her. She would check on me, and to this day, she still does. She's in North Carolina, and guess what? Oh, no, sorry, South Carolina. And one of these days, we are going to meet. And I know she's trying to have one. And, you know, it's like everyone is brought into your life, I feel, for a reason.
Absolutely.
That I've known since elementary school. But if they haven't been through a miscarriage, they're not going to be able to understand how I am.
Absolutely.
So having her to talk to bounce off my feelings was incredible. And I'll be forever grateful for her because she helped me out. Because she went, like, I think she was a month before me, give or take. And so she knew exactly what it felt like. And now I look at it, I don't know how, but God has a way. And my husband and I are closer than ever. We're the happiest we've ever been. And through turning down that job last year, I got an amazing job and I started in December. And I absolutely love my job now. So it's funny how things have like a full circle effect, how 1 minute I have a miscarriage, not sure if my husband and I are going to make it. We haven't even known each other a year or married a year at this point. And miscarriages can break couples up that have been married for years.
Absolutely.
And for me, I just looked at everything and I'm like, yeah, I went through some hard things. Well, a lot of hard things. And for me, Patrick walking into my life was the biggest blessing I could have asked for. I tell him that, honestly, he's the reason I feel why I survived my car accident, because I was meant to find him.
This whole time you were going towards him with your, mom guarding you. It's such a beautiful story with its literally ups and downs. But, I think I remember the first time we talked on, I think it was via Zoom or Messenger, it doesn't really matter. But I just remember thinking like, oh my gosh, like when, first of all, like, when are you going to catch a break? Like, when are you going to just, be at peace or just, letting, or like getting what life has for you, like the best what it has. And second, how incredibly strong you are and how resilient you are, and the just will to live you have, because a lot of people at this point, they just don't care, or they have such immense trauma in themselves that not even therapy helps them, not even aggressive therapy, like trying hypnosis and stuff helps them anymore, because some things just stay, and it's okay. I think that the things that happen to us, they shape us into who we are, even I think especially the bad ones, or not the bad ones, just the ones that really leave a scar. But I mean, I repeat myself, but I can't imagine, and the pain, and not just mental and spiritual and and emotional pain, but the physical pain of it as a constant reminder. But even with that, you keep pushing through, and I love it. I love it. You're just thriving. I can see that. I mean, I know you're healing, and it's a ongoing, even lifelong process. But I can see that. I can see the change.
Thank you. You're gonna make me start crying.
Yeah, that's fine.
A lot.
I'm okay with that.
I know, but it's a lot different than last time we spoke like this. And I'm so happy that you can see the change in me and how positive I am now, because I don't think I was the most positive. Maybe I was. It was just such a hard time, but I have to tell you from the bottom of my heart, when you reached out after my miscarriage and said, if you need to talk, I'm here for you. And honestly, that meant so much. You didn't know me. I, never said, hey, will you be my doula? Like, I never said anything like that, because by the time I found out I was pregnant, and then the miscarriage, and it was so close together. So I still remember sitting on my sofa that day talking with you. And when I got off, I called my mom and I was like, wow, there literally are angels everywhere.
Oh, thank you. Now you're gonna make me cry.
My favorite.
Thank you. That means so much to me. I mean, and it's what I do. I love just, helping people. And if they need to talk, then just talk. And I don't need to tell you anything. If that's what you need, that's what I'm here for. That's what I will give you. And it's, I'm so happy that we connected, that we could talk about it, and that you were willing to share, like days after it happened. And it was some women, they can't even talk about it years later and have troubles, creating new relationships, or like you said, like they drift apart with their previous husband or previous partner, and they just feel this void that they just can't fill. And it's, again, you're an example to us all. And I hope that this will reach as many, women who have their own angel babies and who are struggling to find the empowerment in themselves, because they are power and they just need to channel it. And, I mean, it's easy to say to push through, but that's why we have each other. That's why people are people. And yeah, they connect.
I mean, it's amazing. I'm still on a miscarriage support group on Facebook, and I've been messaging people that say, hey, I feel lost, I need to talk. And I send them a message on Messenger, and I'll share my story with them, because it's tough. When I hear the ladies on there say, no one gets this. My husband doesn't understand. My boyfriend doesn't. Like, no one gets what's happening. Like, I feel so alone. And I'm like, you know what? That's how I felt. And I had one gal yesterday message me, and she goes, does it ever get better? And I said, with time, it does. But if I was to sit here and say that, friends or Facebook seeing people get pregnant or deliver a baby, I'm happy for them 100%. But there's a part of me that gets sad. And I think that's natural. I am ecstatic that any woman can carry a baby full term. Right. But it's still just that little piece of sadness. And in time, I hope and pray that I will sit here with you again and tell you that I'm pregnant and that I'll have a baby. And my husband and I are going to try towards the end of the summer again to have one. And I will definitely, keep you posted.
Amazing. Thank you. Well, I will for sure be in touch, because I want to know. I mean, I really wish this to happen for you. And I remember saying that this will happen, and it's just, there's healing, and then there's moving on, and it's okay not to feel good every day. And it's okay to feel sad, even if they're your dearest friends and you're happy for them, but it's your journey, and it's okay not to be okay. And it's okay to express that to other people, and even to them, and so you are trying, or you're going to.
We're here. So, we wanted to, because I feel like at this point I'm in my right mindset. Mm-hmm. To me, I healed. I read books. I went to counseling. And honestly, my counseling was for my car accident, the fire, and the miscarriage. Because for me, I know what happens when you don't talk about things. It might be tough. It might be opening the wound back up. But at the end of the day, talking and getting the help you need is, in my opinion, one of the best ways to go up and realize that, what? Everyone says things happen for a reason. And sometimes I'm like, what? Next time someone says that, I think I'm going to push them off a cliff, because sometimes you just don't understand.
Right.
And I'm like, one more person tells me that. But then at the same time, looking back, I'm like, you know what? I should have listened to those people more, because you know what? That miscarriage, as hard as it was, my husband and I are closer than ever. I have a phenomenal job now that I wouldn't have had probably if I would have had both twins. So,
Absolutely. You could have been home, right? Or at least some portion of it. And you
so
would.
it's just amazing, you know? And so, yeah, we're going to try. This is going to be our third attempt going to Oahu. So I told him that I would rather wait till we get back, because I remember the morning sickness, all day sickness that I had was incredible. And I was like, if I'm going to Hawaii for the second time, I want to enjoy myself. I don't want to be sick all day long. I'm like, I'll just when I come back to Boise.
You leave the morning sickness to Boise.
Yes, I'm like, no, I can't do that in Hawaii. Like, I want to enjoy myself. And he's never been. So we're super excited to take him. And then we're going to take my 18-year-old nephew too. So then my parents are going to come. So
amazing. So Julianne, tell me, is there anything that you are doing differently this time? Or is it, or are you approaching the situation from a different mindset?
Yeah, because for me, I don't know if I'll get pregnant, if it'll be a successful pregnancy. But in my opinion, I'm Christian. So for me, I feel for my life that God has a plan for me. I feel like I was saved from a car accident that I shouldn't have been saved in. I know my dad was looking down as my guardian angel. The fire, so many people there lost their lives. So I firmly believe that I'm meant to be here. And honestly, if I'm meant to have a baby, I will. And if not, my husband is super sweet and he said we can adopt.
Amazing.
So I will become a mom.
Absolutely.
It just, you know, we'll see what happens. But for me, I've always wanted a baby. Right. So I'm going to try.
And you already are a mom, if you think about it. Now you are a mom to not just, the pets, the dogs, but you are a mama to two angel babies. So
that are now with my dad.
And it's, we can try and explain, but some things we just can't explain. And it's okay. It's okay not to be able to explain some things and to just let it sit and just let it rest in peace and just heal, and not, like you said, talking about as hard as it is, it's so important, and it's the first step to healing. And without healing, there cannot be new life created, right? If you're still clinging on or holding on to the old one, that's, in heaven. So.
And that too can go in so many different directions. Like my car accident, I could have went to me just being angry and upset and just going like in a hole and not doing anything. But instead I was like, you know what, Julianne, you're given life again. Double vision's going to go away. You're not paralyzed like you could be. I had a super supportive mom and family. So I said, you know what? I'm going to start doing this. And I kid you not, the first time I started taking a walk for exercise, my mom goes, Julianne, do you mean me to go with you? Just be careful on sidewalks going up and down. And I'm like, oh my gosh, Mom. Gotta love her. But, it's cute, And honestly, I don't think I could have done anything. She might disagree, but these last 6 years without her, I don't think I would be this positive, because my mom has been my rock. She literally, I might be partial, but she's the best mom out there. And I am so lucky that God gave her to me as my mom.
And I believe that. I mean, there's no doubt. And the first time we texted, and it's your story was, it's not even the words. It's the energy that is sent with the words that surrounds the words, and it's your spirit, it's your energy, and I love it. And I am so thankful that you could share your story with everyone else who's watching. And I really hope that this will serve its purpose and to empower and encourage and support women, and even, partners of those women who are going through the same thing and they don't know what person they're going to walk in on today. And what to say, because I believe that a lot of these people just feel helpless because they want to help, but they don't know how, and they don't want to say the wrong thing, and they don't want to overdo anything. They just want to do the perfect thing. But sometimes there is no perfect. And sometimes we don't know what we should do. And that's absolutely fine. But I think it's so important to hear. It's so important to know you're not alone. We can do this together. We can heal together. Tell me. You can cry. And please do, because that's it.
And I told one gals on the Miscarriage support group, I said, look, if you ever need to call me, to talk, vent, cry too, I'm here. Because no one understands a miscarriage unless, in a sense, you went through it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And so, Julianne, if I can ask you, what is it, how would you describe it in maybe one sentence that helped you get through this? What was it that you told yourself every day, or what was it that you did?
Probably one of the biggest things I started doing was praying. And for me, I knew that God's watching over me, regardless if anyone listening to this podcast believes or not. This is just my opinion. But I prayed. Sometimes nonstop. And for me, I had that faith base. And when I felt down, the one thing I'll encourage other women to do is do not isolate, because I did. And I realized that was the worst thing ever. You have to talk. You have to be around people. Even if someone just sits there and doesn't say anything and all you do is cry. Because that's what my friend Lisa did. She would come over here. I was like, I don't want to talk, nothing. And I would literally just sit on the sofa and cry. But just having someone there was the most important thing.
Right.
So everyone listening, don't isolate. I know you feel alone, but there are people that love you. You might be a little crazy for a little bit, but you know what? Your hormones will even out. And at the end of the day, they're going to love you no matter what. And if you have love and support from your family and friends, like I said, I was my go-to with my mom. I would call her 20 times a day sometimes, because I just wanted to hear my mom's voice.
Right.
So I know that was a little bit more than a sentence, but
no, that's perfect. I love it. And I think this is exactly what someone, who's watching this needs to hear at this point. And if, this helps them, it's the best feeling in the world. It's why I'm doing this. It's why I asked you if you would be willing to share. And again, it's hard, and it's reliving memories. It's not something someone would just do on an everyday basis.
Yeah.
but yeah. So thank you, Julianne, for.
If one can have strength or anything to be like, you know what, she's went through a lot, so have I. I've got this. Then you know what? Everything I've went through has done something for at least one person. So that's what I hope with someone watching this, that if it affects one, that means all the pain and suffering I've done has helped someone. And honestly, maybe that's why I'm still here, to help others.
Absolutely. And even if you just help one person, that's enough. That is. Yeah. So yes, well, thank you, Julianne, for taking the time and for letting your light shine.
Oh.
I mean, I can feel it from the camera. Yeah, so I'm not going to take any more of your time. I really appreciate it. And I hope we can stay in touch, and I will. Yeah, I hope I'll get a message from you one day that, hey, Vivian, I'm pregnant. Yay. And then another message with your baby. I'm praying for you that this will happen. And
thank you
for you, because you, out of all people, you deserve it more than anyone.
But then there might be a third message that says, Vivian, can you come to the US?
Well, I would love to. I would love to.
Here we go.
If I'm in the US, I will definitely text you. Hey, I'm hanging out somewhere. Like, do you want to meet? Because I would love that.
Yes. But thank you so much, Vivian. You are, like I said, an angel through my miscarriage and all that. It just meant so much to know that there are people out in the world that are total strangers that care and have compassion.
Thank you. That is today. Thank you so much.
Of course.
The sweetest thing that you could have said. You don't even know how much this means to me when people, and we haven't, I wasn't your doula personally, but it's I can't even explain the feeling, how it makes me feel when I can have a connection with someone that I don't work with on for an extended period of time through their pregnancy, but just connect through a different sort of experience. So thank you.
Of course, you're welcome. And if people have questions or anything, definitely let me know.
Absolutely. Would you be willing to share where people can find you on social media?
Yeah.
All right. So you have Facebook, right?
Yes, Facebook. So it's Julianne Marsh.
Amazing. I will put it in the comments so people can click on it and just find you right away.
Of course. And honestly, if anyone has questions and you want to have me back, I'll be more than happy to come back. And if there's anything I can answer or feedback or help that I can give, I can do this again.
Amazing. Well, thank you. And thank you everyone for watching. And I will see you next time with another special guest. Thank you for watching.
Thank you.